Hello, hello. We are back again. And today I'm talking to you about the voice, the throat chakra. Um, if you don't know me, my name is Caitlin. I used to be a professional singer, actor on stage, 8 shows a week in musical theater. So I know what it takes to have that vocal care. You need your voice. And there was a time in my life I was doing a lot. I was actually in 2 shows at once. So I was doing 16 shows a week, and I was understudying one of the lead roles of one of the shows I was in. So it's also doing understudy rehearsals or all sorts of things. And at that time when I was very, very well practiced, I had an amazing voice. I was a beltress. I could just sing all of that. And then there was a day where I was singing too much and I went to go sing something new at an audition and I started to sing and the notes it didn't come out, which meant my vocal cords were swollen. I had a tiny, tiny, like if I didn't take care of it when I took care of it, it would have been a node. And for all of those of you out there, that's like career killer in musical theater. Like, no, not the nodes, you know, um, because that means your voice changes and it means on your vocal cords. I don't know if you've ever seen your vocal cords before, but they come together when you create sound, vibration. And if you sit on your cords, like when people do the vocal fry, it's actually really like bad for your vocal cords. I try to remind myself, stay lifted all the time, not only because it's actually just like it's more it's nicer to listen to. Not only is it pleasant, but it actually has more of a crisp and precise sound, so it's easy to understand. And then when you move your mouth a lot, it's lip reading, so there's more communication happening. When you sit on your vocal cords and you're pressing on your cords and even on your solar plexus, everything just is crunched. It's not like it doesn't, it's powerless. Like it feels, you have to lift your voice up into the world, stand up and, you know, be yourself. So, your voice has something to do with that, right? So whether you're on stage or you're like doing a presentation or you're just like on the phone with people on a day to day and you're being a coach and you're like, oh my God, I'm constantly talking to people. If you're having some like actual sore throat sort of situation and you're clearing your throat a lot, which also gotta pay attention to those things, to all those podcasters out there and all these people who are using their voices like performers, right? So really listen to the performers on this. Like you have to have vocal care. You need your voice because the moment you don't have a voice, that's it. When you have to be on vocal rest, that's for real, for real. And there was a time when I was doing all of those shows, I had that moment of fear of like, oh my God, if I don't have a voice, like I can't communicate. Like it's very difficult. Like you have to write things down. I couldn't just do this with you. You know what I mean? It's a lot of quiet time. You have to like communicate in a way. And just sometimes you just want to talk to people. You know what I mean? So I learned very quickly I have to value my voice, right? So now let's go even further back. Like, not even about like, how to take care of your voice. Like, what if you're like, I'm just trying to find my voice, right? So let's go into like kind of like a metaphorical speaking of like, okay, I'm not a performer, right? I'm not even making content. I'm actually like pondering what my voice is, like who am I, right? Our authenticity, our vocal cords, like that's what we speak and sometimes don't speak, right? Hold on to or keep, or sometimes we cut ourselves off from like feelings, right? The heart, or other places. The neck is like also what's holding our beautiful heads, like our brains and everything, it's a bridge. It's something that's very essential, right? It helps us breathe, it helps us, it's very, we want to take very good care of this beautiful part, we decorate it with necklaces and jewelry. And even today, I was like, "Ooh, I want to put on one of my cute summer shirts because we're going to be talking about the throat." Um, what is this called? Like the collarbone? There's like a fun French, I forgot what it's called. But just like to describe this part, especially on a woman and on a man. Oh, like there's so much that is said of this part of the body when people are very confident, they have their chest out. They allow themselves to be seen, right? When there are people who don't express themselves in the world or don't feel like they can, hiding, like very, like small. So what if you are discovering your voice for the first time, or what feels like your first time again, right? We're rebirthing and we are all on this planet trying to figure out what's going on this planet. It's 2025, and sometimes I have 2020 moments where I'm just like, oh yeah, all of that happened. Whoa. And that happened 5 years ago? Whoa. Okay. Time is interesting, right? Um, so during that time, I think we had a really big activation when it came to our creative expression when it came to our voices. And I think a lot of us got this chance to sit, with ourselves or within our environment and actually like have like a, a reflection moment, like coming back to themselves and spending time with themselves and deciding different things for themselves and coming to that place. There's a lot of change, a lot of movement, a lot of um uh what's that called, where it's like what is it called, ultimatum. This or it's this, it was very, so there was a big, so there was a lot going on around here, right? All the movements that were happening, like standing up for our rights. I feel very much of that activation happening again, especially with where the state of the world is right now and who our president is and what's happening in Gaza. A lot of throat activation and like standing up for what's right, ensuring that like you're on the side of history that you want to be on consciously, right? Like knowing that this is being documented, right? There's a one day we're going to look back on all of this, right? So there's a lot of that up here. So sometimes when like things can get deep and things can get really serious, sometimes that shuts down. And sometimes people silence themselves. And and it's out of fear, it's out of protecting the self, it's out of preserving energy, it's out of um all sorts of things, it could be about anything. So what happens when we feel like we are being silenced or we're being shut down? The first question I want to ask you is, are you doing that to you? Let's just because if you're doing that to yourself, that's the only thing that we can like technically control right now in this very moment of like you, you in there, you. Are you silencing yourself? That's the first question. What do you feel? Yes or no? If it's a yes, right? Are you silencing yourself? You're like, yeah, I am. Wow. You're like, what parts of me feel as if they would be safer silence? And then, and then it really is like, is that true? Does that silence really help me? when I silence myself like that, or when I shut myself down? Truthfully, is that helpful? Is that helpful for my experience? Hmm. All right. So now it's like, do I feel like there's something happening collectively? Like collectively, people are starting to feel censored or silenced, right? Hmm. Well, if our creative expression feels threatened, what happens to me when that happens? Do I go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? What do I go into? What does my nervous system automatically go to when I'm having one of those moments? Do you have one? So whichever one it is, now we're like, ooh, you a fighter? You a runner? You a freeze? You a fawn? You know, what do you go into when you feel like that is happening? Because that happens for everyone. As tough as you are, you've got one. So now I want you to pay attention to how it feels in your jaw. And sometimes it's really helpful to just, you know, a really sweet, soft little pats on our jaws. Because if we imagine that there's like space between our molars. So this is like very singery of me. But like when you smile, you're smiling all the way back here, right? Imagine that there's space between here and when you speak, you're directing the conversation or the essence of the conversation through the top of your head. So you're feeling the lift, right? You're uplifting. There's space here, right? There's almost a smile, right? There's a genuine essence. There's an energy activation, right? Do you feel that? I hope you do, because I'm like really turning it up. I'm like, do you feel that? Because I don't know. I know my intention for this video was for you to experience that. And as the teacher, I'm like, how can I actually teach my students through the camera of those feelings, right? And then being aware of it when I go out into the world and I'm imagining that my head, you know, we're being lifted up. We have that space right here. We're smiling. And then all of a sudden you're like, I feel like I feel like I'm smiling more. Hmm. I tell my clients when they decide what their script is, what their elevator pitch is, what they have to do is they have to say their script out loud while they're smiling. Because sometimes, especially because right now it's like so cool to not smile. And it's like very cool to have sexy face with like, like maybe like some like sexy eyes, but like the eyes are kind of dead eyes. I'm starting to realize what we see as almost attractive, which is really interesting because it's not, or popular, maybe not attractive, but like this same face, like these interesting, like is that really like what I am experiencing? Do I really feel, you know, different about this picture or this, whatever because of, you know, maybe the upliftedness that's happening. So, so if you're someone who's looking for your voice, that's where I would tell you to start. I'd be like, Let's go into that exercise together. Let's actually just feel like I just went like this. And I am actually like there's this like beautiful light that goes all the way top of your head, all the way down through your legs, through your feet to, the core of the earth, right? And somehow, right, I have the ability to just go like this. Doot. That's it. I have permission. Doot. All I'm doing is just boop. And then you feel the boop. Oh yeah, I have more. I feel that energy, right? So you start to feel this upliftedness about you in the presence, right, of the creative expression, shoulders back, the neck becomes um, safe to be seen, right? The neck is a very vulnerable place for many reasons, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the neck is so important. The throat chakra is so important. The throat, so important, right? This is a lifeline, not to be like super serious, but this is like this is what you got, this is like very important um when it comes to how you treat your body, your vessel, your temple, and how you speak about yourself and how you speak about others. And let me just say, even if you're typing things out and you're writing things out, that's still your voice, right? That's still this like expression that's coming through your, you know, it's the heart. The heart goes, and you can write, you can type, that's still a conversation, right? So I want you to really sense into what does that mean for you? What does it mean to have a voice in this world that is yours and that you do have control over what you say and that you don't have to answer questions you don't want to answer. And then there are questions that you should absolutely have for yourself that you do need to answer. Maybe there's things that you really do need to answer for yourself. The things that you say, no, I don't need to, that's a boundary, right? Because there's also like, there's a lot of oversharing when it comes to content in, especially in social media. People are telling their whole life story out there, like every detail of it. And you know what? Sometimes do that. Sometimes you got to do that. And sometimes you got to, like privacy is important. And you see it in a lot of these famous people who like literally want it so badly. And then they get it. And then you're like, I think they literally like freaking out a little bit because now everybody sees them. They're like, hello, everything's great. Everyone just sees me now. So being seen and being heard in that beautiful voice of yours. So how do you discover it? You start asking these small questions, and then you start to ask yourself, you make noise like you hum, humming. Hmm. Mm. Making some like, oh, you don't do any vocal fries. No, no, Kim Kardashian. The Kardashians are ruining y'all's voice. That's for real. Like, do not look to them for vocal health, you know? I would not be like, yes, I want to, but also that's like metaphorically speaking. No offense, who knows where this goes. And if I ever, whatever, whatever. But I will say the vocal fry is a no-no. It's not good for you, Um, just in general. But also it's like the uplifted energy, like, like what are we what's going on here? Like what's the vibration here? You know what I mean? Like do I feel uplifted? Do I feel better? Like, like what's going on here? Like what are we watching? What are we listening to, Um, listen to Chapel Roan's voice. very pure. Like you can hear it. I think it's that coffee song. When I first heard that song, I was like, oh, whoa, she can sing. And she's singing from that place, and you hear her vocal cords almost like working because she gets so like she allows you to be so close, so there. Olivia Rodrigo. You're just like, you're singing that how many times? Like you are a singer, like you are trained, Celine Dion, hello, could sing those songs for the majority of her life, which like your voice changes as a woman, you know? Your hormones change, your body changes, ladies. When you are premenopausal into menopause, that's like that's a part of the deal, being a woman. So things change again. And so yeah, the creative expression, just expression in general. Even just wearing, I was like, well, I'm gonna wear something sexy because we're talking about the throat chakra. Duh. But it's also, it can be very seducing. The throat, the voice, the tone. What are you calling towards you, What are you, who are you, in the world? Um, Sometimes it's fun to just do different voices just to feel what it feels like. And it's very playful when you play with your voice. It's an instrument, it's a melody, you know. Monotone does not have to be the way that we speak in the world. We can do it all. You know what I mean? I think we need some vibrancy in the world once again. And, how people speak, sometimes that's just music and at its own. You're like, oh, wow, whoa, whoa. I just went on this whole ride. How cool. Hmm, cool. It was just a conversation. It was just listening to this person's voice and actually just like, whoa, they're hitting all the notes. Like, it's not a monotone, blah, 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 blah. You know? What does that do? When you listen to different languages, wow, all the different sounds, you know? Language. How incredible that this is the way we communicate with each other. And we speak so many different languages and we have to like come together, right? And speak all these languages. And sometimes that language can also be silent, right? And can also be strong. So, like we were talking about before, doesn't mean like silence is a bad thing unless you are silencing yourself or you're quieting yourself. That it's not helpful, right? When do you need balance? When is it time to listen? When is it time to take a step back and go, active listening, be my friend. Thank you. Because those who be talking too much, like turn it off, let somebody else share, ask a better question, maybe ask some questions rather than the same conversation, like let's change it up, Um, so how do we take care of our voices as they begin to mature? We always have space between our responses, right? I believe the big thing about revolutions, when there's a elevation happening and an awakening where there is more of an intensity when it comes to communication or activation, expression, just oomph, very big energy. I keep going like this and I just like imagine like, right, confidence. We have to like activate that, that's a practice. And that's just spending time kind of in this world, like like this. So yeah, I'm going to be talking more about my experience of like when I literally when I had to be quiet, And what that experience was really like. And how we're going into a time where we may feel like our voices may be controlled or silenced, or is that really, really, really what I believe and what I'm putting out into the world? Maybe this is the time of change. I can change that. So, thanks for spending time with me talking about the voice, the throat chakra. We got to really be with this very like um hmm, it was very luscious. It was like a very luscious energy. So, thanks for spending time with me here, and we'll talk more about this in the next video. So, subscribe, do your thing, look at all the videos. Definitely subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already and you've already watched like at least 3 of these, like, what are you waiting for? Okay, so hit the subscribe button. Okay, bye.